Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information, find out about past shows at my website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Lindsay Coward, who's a team development specialist, speaker, corporate yoga instructor, you name it. Lindsay is that. And Lindsay, you can wave to all your friends who are watching you on this show. Okay, that's Lindsay.
Hello.
And I should mention, in terms of formal introduction, Lindsay Coward is a certified yoga instructor with a master's in public health. She's a speaker, team development specialist, and founder of Yoga Nut, a workplace wellness company here in Nashville. Since 2011, I guess. Is that or 2019?
2016 is when I founded Yoga Nut.
Okay, we had a typo
I've been
there.
teaching yoga. Yeah, I've been teaching yoga since 2011. So that's probably where the mistake got happened.
Oh, so you were like the youngest person I ever started teaching yoga. You started at the age of 7. Was that it?
Exactly.
Okay. Wow, impressive. Lindsay has supported a myriad of business teams through leading mindfulness sessions, teaching well-being practices, and educating working habits on tools for stress resiliency. And so, Lindsay, the question I always ask when I meet somebody for the first time is, as a child, you grew up where?
In Salisbury, North Carolina.
Okay. And when you were a girl growing up in Salisbury, North Carolina, do you always know you want to be a yoga person?
I did not. I actually didn't even know about yoga until middle school. And I was unfortunate to be on the wrong group that didn't get to learn yoga, and I was very disappointed at the time. I remember thinking it sounded really cool, and I was really disappointed. But what I wanted to be when I was growing up, I wanted to drive an ice cream truck and drive around to all the children that didn't have access to ice cream trucks.
Okay, and we'll talk about that because I know you, like me, have this lifelong interest in ice cream, and you still maintained it. That's good. Still maintained it. So what made you want to drive an ice cream truck?
I lived out in the country, so Salisbury was my address, but I actually lived beside a cow pasture. It wasn't a place where the ice cream truck visited. I loved ice cream, and I remember being in town and hearing the ice cream truck drive around. And so sometimes we would get it if we were in town, but I don't know. I just wanted to let all children have access to ice cream trucks and the joy that ice cream brings to families.
Well, that's a good thing to have a joy for. So you decided, though, you didn't become an ice cream truck driver.
I didn't.
But you took your first yoga class, then I guess you said middle school. When did you take your first class?
Yeah, so I actually didn't take a yoga class till I was in college. At UNC Asheville, there was a free yoga class for students, and I thought, finally, I get the opportunity to try this thing called yoga. And I went to the class, and it was amazing, and I loved it. I just fell in love with yoga.
Put you on the spot. Do you remember the teacher's name?
I don't.
Okay, so we can't give a shout out to the teacher, but is that something that one person, though, or that one class got you going into it? So after you took the first class, you then started taking other classes, or how did you learn more about yoga?
I did. So I continued to take those classes while I was a student there at UNCA. And then when I graduated, I took a corporate job and kind of forgot about yoga. And it was a very negative working environment. And it just came to me once more like, oh, there was that thing called yoga that I practiced in college, and it really helped me be a better student athlete. So maybe it could help me now in my working career. And so I started taking classes with a woman in Concord, North Carolina. It was a small studio. She also had massage therapy. Her name is Jessica King, and she's really the person that I started practicing with regularly and started implementing more meditation and breath work and noticing a huge shift in my mindset and my work.
By the way, thanks for the shout out. Make sure we get a copy of this to Jessica. That we talked about her on the air. But so that's pretty cool that she inspired you to do this. What inspired you then to do this on a full-time basis?
Yeah, so the job, actually, the negative working environment that I was in, just noticing that shift that I had, filling my cup, fulfilling myself, I was able to show up to work from a more positive mindset and be able to give to the work environment, more than I was able to before practicing yoga. And it kind of became an aha moment for me, in that if I practice, mindfulness or meditation or moving my body in a more self-serving way, and I can show up better to work, what if an entire team had access to these mindfulness practices, breath works, breaks in the day, etc.? And so I sought out a yoga teacher training. It took me about a year to find the Savannah Yoga Center, where I was certified through their intensive program, in order to bring yoga to the community and to working, like the workplace. That was my goal and focus with teaching yoga.
Now, what's kind of interesting, I think what you do is a little bit different than other people do, because you probably know this, like Asheville, when we first moved here, it's like yoga capital of the world, and that I knew this. I used to do a lot of work for SCORE. I still do some work for Asheville SCORE. And we'd see about every other person was a yoga teacher, And so I won't say Asheville has more yoga teachers than anywhere else, but they certainly have a lot of yoga teachers. But what's cool about what you do, so yours is not, though, you don't run a studio, is that correct?
Exactly.
And so you explain your model, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yes, so it started as corporate yoga, yoga for the workplace. I show up, I bring props if we need them, I bring mats if we need them, or I teach standing movements, for folks that are in repetitive motion careers, or are even around a conference center, so like a conference room. And I teach how to be more mindful in your body, how to release stress and tension mentally and physically, and how to connect with your teammates through the experience of yoga and mindfulness.
Now you're teaching me something here, which is kind of interesting, that you mentioned repetitive motions, and I never thought about it. But yoga can be good for somebody who's like me at a computer all day long. It can help.
For sure, yeah. Not only does it help with your blood flow and your mobility, but it helps to release that tension and that stuck energy that's built up when you're doing repetitive motions. Whether you're typing on the computer or, doing an artistry or painting or any sort of like manufacturing job, anything that's repetitive motion, our bodies get stuck in that motion. And so we have to open the body and release, in order to combat the stress and tension that's created during those motions.
Well, let me put you on the spot here a little bit. So we're talking a
Yeah.
little bit. I'm here at my computer as well. So you work with somebody, you work with a team. So you work with several people in the office. Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, so we get the whole team together, whether that is the whole floor room, whether that is all staff meeting, etc. But everyone is invited to the session.
And so the session typically is a couple sessions or one session. How does that work out?
Yeah, so typically, if you want the most out of your, input, you would have repetitive sessions. So whether that's weekly or monthly, um, we do come as often as a team would like us to come. And we
And
have
so,
our on-demand options too. So for folks that want to practice something short, every day, like there's options for online, um, live streaming those, or live
how long are the sessions typically?
for a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, on average, 45 minutes that's the typical session.
Okay. So
So if
explain
you're
that.
doing something that's for repetitive motion, you don't need 45 minutes. You can get results within 5 to 10 minutes. And so we do that too. Like we'll come in more frequently for shorter sessions. And then for some businesses that want it more for like stress management and just tension release, we could come in once a week or even once a month and do a 45-minute session.
Now, for a business, how often do you recommend that they have yoga sessions? In other words, is it something they do during lunch hour? Is it after work, before work? What do you recommend?
It looks different for each business, but I do recommend it occurring during the workday. A lot of people are checked out by the end of the workday, and so they're ready to go home. So we're not going to see as many benefits within the employees if they're not even showing up for the session. So if you can incorporate it into the day, whether that is, towards the beginning of a shift or around a lunch break, those are the ideal times to have a session with us.
And it sounds like it'd be a fun thing to do. In other words, that,
Uh-huh.
you had a stressful day. And is that the idea that yoga can actually be fun as well? People can enjoy it?
Yes, exactly. It's super fun. Yes. And that's what it's meant to be. It's not supposed to be serious or like how deep can you be in a pose? It's really like, hey, let's be together, let's breathe, let's release our bodies, let's feel good.
And talk about that, even as you're describing it, the value from a
Mhm.
team building standpoint, that people come to work and they do their thing, eat lunch and go back to work, but they don't necessarily work in enjoyable, I guess, teams. They work in forced teams. But how does yoga help the team building process?
Yeah, so it brings people together through a shared experience, for one thing. If everyone's invited and they show up for a mindfulness or meditation or whatever session with us, they're learning together. They're also able to remind each other, like, let's say we learned a breath work for stress management, and let's say you're at work and you notice your team member is having a really tough day. They're feeling really down. Maybe something happened in their life outside of work. And they can say, hey, do you remember that breath work that we practiced together when Lindsay was here? Oh, yeah, let's practice it again. And so it's a way to continue to remind each other and continue to show up for each other through that team building and shared experience.
How does meditation come into play?
Yeah, so meditation, so we always do a sort of meditation or centering at the beginning of a session, whether it's a mat yoga class or a standing session. And that is a way to bring the awareness into your body. So bring your focus to what's going on in your body, bring your focus to your breath, bring your focus to the current moment. Because so many of us at work, we're doing lots of things at once. We have multiple tasks we need to finish. We're being pulled in lots of different directions. So that centering or meditation teaches each of us how to be present and how to complete one task at a time and not feel so pulled in millions of directions.
Yeah, when you work with a company, I imagine you come in with people who have all sorts of backgrounds. Some people have had no yoga, no meditation, no breathing. Some people have had it, I guess, for many years. Is that a problem for you, or how do you work with different people with different backgrounds?
It's not a problem. I have taught all ages, honestly, from baby up to 80s. I've taught all abilities. And the awesome thing about yoga in the workplace is that we keep it accessible. You don't have to dress out. You don't have to look a certain way or feel a certain way or have practiced before. The exercises that we do are for all levels, all bodies. And if I notice someone's having trouble lifting their arms, I'll give a cue to keep your hands on your hips or, to modify in order to fit each body that is there. They don't have to stand, they don't have to sit on the floor if they're not able to or want to.
Well, same thing too, even then, so people have an impression that there are these poses they have to get into, or, and it
Hmm.
has to be done a certain way. But at least, I guess, when you work in corporations, you don't get into all sorts of stuff like that.
So it depends on the class. A lot of our most popular sessions recently, they look more like a stretching and release session, coupled with meditation, or they are one of our team development workshops, which are education based, where we give tools for stress management or burnout, or self compassion, and just like we incorporate some movement or a form of breath work or a meditation as a part of the workshop or a part of the session, but it's not about like how long can I be in a downward facing
Right.
dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
And those
now,
things can be done with chairs as well. So all the poses, all the same release that you're looking for, you can get without even having a yoga mat.
if somebody's listening to this, or somebody involved in a company who would like to bring you on board, is this something that you have to commit to do every day or every other day, or how often when you set it up for a company, do you recommend the sessions be held?
I say a minimum once a month.
Yeah. No, I don't mean even
And
with you, but I'm saying you come in
in
and show it
general.
to us.
Oh,
After you
yeah.
leave, should I be doing this every
Oh,
day or once a week, or how often do you recommend doing it?
yes. So when, let's say a company books with me, let's say they book a monthly session. So I'll come in, I lead the session, and then I give them a takeaway. So let's say we practice the belly breath as a means of stress management. So then they have a link to the belly breath where they continue to practice it on a daily basis. So the more often you practice something, whether it's, wrist movements for that repetitive motion at the computer, or it's a belly breathing technique for releasing stress, those little practices that take, 5 minutes, when they practice them on a daily basis, they're going to reap a larger benefit over time.
Now,
So
is
it's
it,
recommended to practice, as many times a day as you can.
now, is this something you should also be doing? So you do work, should do it on the weekends or at home as well?
I mean, you can, yes, for
Yeah.
sure. You will see benefits not only at work, but in your home life. Let's say you feel stressed at work and you do that belly breath in your car before you step into your home, you're going to show up as a better person for those folks that are in your home with you.
And since you mentioned it, by belly breath, what exactly is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you've ever watched a baby breathe, you notice that their bellies expand as they inhale and they contract as they exhale.
Right.
If you watch an adult breathe, most of us inhale and we have a big expansion in the chest, and then exhale, let it go. And our bellies do the opposite. They suck in when they inhale and then they let out. So belly breathing is coming back to that natural state of breath. So you actually place your hand, you can have one on your chest and one on your belly. You inhale, let your belly expand. Exhale, let your belly soften. And so what it does is it brings our bodies back to that natural state of breathing that's, like I said, natural to humans. And it's a calming, restorative breath that we should all practice.
And talking about practicing, my wife, as we speak, is taking a breathing course also, and
Mm.
it talks about and have you address it about holding your breath in a certain amount of time and then exhaling it or so many
Mm-hmm.
seconds, which is contrary to what people usually do. Is that correct? I forget the name of the technique. You probably know it, but it's the name of a specific breathing technique that she's being taught. And you know what I'm talking about? That you have to.
Yes. There
What's
are
it?
different breathing techniques where you hold your breath
Right.
in.
Yeah.
There's, there's the 4 count breath.
Right.
One of the ones that I teach that I really like is one where you inhale for 4, you hold it for 7, and then you exhale for 8. So when you hold the breath in, you're actually filling your lungs up and it fills your body. It's almost like giving yourself a hug. You're just like so full of oxygen, and then you hold it there and you just let yourself be nurtured in that inhale, and then you exhale everything that's left.
Yeah, I think she's learning that and some other things as well. When you do
Yeah.
that technique, do you then do it all day or do you just do it concentrated?
No,
What?
no. So that breath is just a reset. So breath work is a reset. It's a tool to use when you're feeling stressed or when you're feeling tired or you're feeling anxious, to reset your body to come back to what the whole point of yoga is, to be in that parasympathetic nervous system, the natural state of optimal well-being. And that's where our digestion is working as optimally as it can be, our immune system, our reproductive system, and it's just where the body wants to live. But we have so many external factors. Work causes stress, life causes stress, there's things going on in the world, and so a lot of times we find ourselves being pulled away from that parasympathetic nervous system and into that stress response, the fight or flight response. And so what breath work does is it helps you to come back to your body, back to that parasympathetic nervous system so that you can live in your optimal state of well-being.
Let me put you on the spot here a little bit and ask
Mm-hmm.
you in terms of not that I have a great deal of stress now, but if you were just coming in to work with somebody, can you give like a short thing you could share with somebody? I think that's my phone. Sorry about that. you could share with somebody that would help them, a short stress relief exercise? Can you show me one right now, or show anybody watching this?
Yeah, so I mentioned the belly breath. So
Right.
that's where you inhale with your belly, exhale, soften. If you have let's say you have neck tension, we'll
Right.
do a little neck exercise. So
Okay.
sitting up nice and tall, take an
Okay.
inhale. And then on the exhale, turn your head, look out over the right shoulder. Inhale back to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center. And then let your right ear drop towards your right shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, lift your chin nice and tall. Exhale, drop the chin towards the chest. Feel the stretch in the back of the neck. Inhale, coming back to center. And then you can even add some shoulder rolls in there to really get into the shoulders and the neck and release tension.
What's cool about this, so this is, even though I wouldn't necessarily call it yoga per se, but it is yoga, or what makes something yoga? When you say you're practicing yoga, what are you doing when you're practicing yoga?
Oh, it could be anything from those breathing practices to meditating to moving your body in a way that feels good for you. There are certain poses or asanas that come with yoga. They're all built, though, to bring your awareness to the present, to really notice where you are. That's really the point of yoga, the union with your body, with your mind, with your spirit, to be where you are right now and be present.
Now, talk about yourself. Is this something you practice every single day, or twice on Sundays, or how often do you do yoga?
Yes. So if you ask me how often do I do yoga, breath work, I practice throughout the day. I use it all the time, from when I sit down at the computer to answer emails. I usually meditate or do a breathing practice to calibrate my mind and get myself ready for that type of work. Even when I'm with my family, I have small children. They can be very overstimulating, and I use calming breathing techniques when I'm around them too, if I feel overstimulated. I practice
How old are they? Your children?
yeah, 1, 4, and 9.
So now 9-year-old or even the 4-year-old, are
Yeah.
they being taught some of this?
They are, yes.
Okay, so there's no
And
age on
then
it. Yeah.
I know. And they see me. They see me. I actually do the shoulder, the neck stuff every day. I do mobility, hips, like on a mat or on the floor. I do hip circles. I do lunges, all sorts of like asana type poses too every day, just for mobility.
Do they do it with you?
Sometimes, or sometimes they're just playing and watching me.
Would be cute. Do you have any pets?
I don't.
Oh, because I could see you've seen sometimes a dog will do this as well. You're
Yes.
doing the stretching. So the question I guess I was asking, so you do it, which is kind of, I guess, the best way to do it throughout the day. But some people, like, I guess they take a yoga course. So they're thinking that you take a yoga course and you have to go for yoga for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. And that's what they get the yoga. But I guess what you're proposing is, if not a better way, certainly a different way. Don't look at it necessarily as an isolated 45 minutes a day, but if you can incorporate it throughout your day, it's a better way to do it.
I wouldn't necessarily say one way is better than the other. They have different focuses. Like, you're going to see benefit from both. When I was working in corporate, I practiced yoga in the evenings, and I went to a class like that, and I noticed shifts in my own practice, in my own self. But I also started practicing on my own. I started meditating or breathing and noticing those times in the day where I was like slumped over at the computer, and not moving, not stretching, not opening up, and starting to incorporate some of those movements that I learned in the class into my day. So a lot of the things that we do as a corporate yoga instructor or as worksite wellness professionals when we come into a workplace is, yes, we'll have a 45-minute session and we'll teach you some of these tools so that you can then use them at other times as well. you get the benefit of like the 45-minute session while we're there, but you also can continue to utilize those practices on your own time.
I love the name Yoga Nut behind you. What's the where'd you get that from?
Yeah, it's the name of my business. It kind of just came to me. I think of it as two ways. Like yoga nut is someone that's a nut. They're crazy about something, and yoga has always been. It kind of came to me, honestly. Yoga did. It wasn't something I sought out. It was something that I heard of. It sounded really interesting. I was able to try it. I loved it, and I just kept coming back to it in different parts of my life. Yoga nut to me also, I think of a nut as a seed. So it's just the beginning, the starting point of a journey of wellness. And that's where I come in as a professional. I want to teach folks how to live better and feel better in their bodies.
I love the name, but I just love the name too. Or do you also, are you called the Yoga Nut, or do they,
Yeah, people call me yoga nut. They're like, "You're yoga nut, right?" I'm
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I am."
I love it. Or it's on your business card. You also were
It
telling
is.
me off the air. I love this concept too. In terms of working with folks and companies, you practice, I guess, what you might call them what do you call them? The three healthy habits to building
The
healthy
three pillars.
3 pillars to building healthy habits. Could you share them?
Yes. Yes. So that's part of our business model and how we show up as a worksite wellness company. So the first one is our live education and live sessions. And so that's where we do show up, whether it's live stream. I didn't mention this
No,
before,
talk
but
about it.
yeah, we show up in person. We make it convenient for our clients. So whether that's showing up at a conference center, a hotel, if they're having a business retreat or a corporate event, we're showing up on site where they work, or we're streaming live straight to them wherever they are. So our services are available across the nation. We can live stream to anyone and anywhere that wants to work with us. The education component of that comes into play with our developmental workshops, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. And so that's a place where we teach more about those tools for well-being, for mindfulness, for stress management. But the first pillar is that education and the live education and instruction. The
The
second
second pillar.
piece,
Yeah.
yeah, it's our stress management tips and exercises. So stress management is a huge component of Yoga Nut. We know what it feels like to be stressed. We also know what it feels like to be on the other side of stress. So what we like to do is to teach tools like the belly breath, for example, as a way that you can combat your stress or to manage your stress. So when let's say you have a client that's like really challenging to work with, you know that you can practice that belly breath before you meet with that client. And it helps to recalibrate your system so that you can show up in a better space.
And the third
The
component,
third tip, yeah, the third component is our on-demand sessions. And so that is Yoga Nut On Demand. It is a full service platform that streams across all devices with Wi-Fi. On there, you find stretches at the desk, quick meditations, breathing practices, full length yoga classes, tapping sessions. So Veronica, she is one of the yoga instructors that works with me, Veronica Jardetsky, and she teaches the emotional freedom release technique through tapping. And so some of those are on our Yoga Nut On Demand as well. And what the point of Yoga Nut On Demand is that, let's say we did that breathing, that belly breathing in a session. And let's say that you kind of remember how to do it, but maybe you're not really sure or confident. Go onto your portal, your company portal, log in. You have access to that breathing practice, and you can watch it on your phone or on your computer, anywhere that has internet, and you can play it when you need it.
and
And so those are there for you all the time.
I guess your timing was perfect though, because you were having these, 3 parts of your business. And I guess it helped you in part get through COVID because you were doing some of this when COVID struck. Is that correct?
So I was doing the live stream classes.
Right.
I started doing that in 2019. So we were already working with some conferences that were kind of like a hybrid model where we would stream live to their conference at different locations across the globe. The Yoga Nut On Demand I actually developed and implemented in 2021. So that came after I finished my master's in public health and basically expanded Yoga Nut from being corporate yoga to worksite wellness. So now we offer the on-demand component, and we've incorporated all three of those pillars into our business model.
Two final questions. One being the favorite part of your job. What do you like best?
I like showing up to the companies. That's my favorite part. Teaching people, meeting people, and just helping folks feel better.
And for some people, I guess it's a revelation that they can have fun doing this. We're kidding a little bit, but yoga, and it's far from them, and meditation. But you can, and you're a great example of it. You can have fun with it. You can smile when you're doing it as well.
Oh yeah.
And going full circle, since you mentioned it earlier in the program, you always wanted to be a I love that, ice cream truck driver. By the way, I'm coming up with an idea as we speak, but the ice cream truck driver. So do you have a favorite ice cream?
I think I told you I love the hop, so I like their
that's your favorite
local
place. Okay, the hop. We'll
their
give a shout
local
out the best.
flavors.
Right. But what's
Yeah,
your favorite
they
flavor?
always, well, that's what I'm getting to, is that they always have local flavors. Like right
Right.
now, I think they're doing peach or strawberry, and I love trying those local flavors. They're so good.
And Greg, we'll give the shout out the hop ice cream with Greg and Ashley Garrison, the absolute best. And so it's nice you're located close to a hop, is that correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the criteria when you moved to Asheville or found a home. It had to be. Well, we actually looked at this in all seriousness. We want to make sure there was an ice cream place near us. So I'm trying to think though. Somehow we should combine the two things. We show ice cream and yoga. Where I'll ask you, you probably know it, but my one thing I was even certified in it, laughter yoga. Are you familiar with laughter yoga?
Yeah.
So, I could do that. So I'm giving you the idea, but let's do ice cream yoga, or
why not?
Where you have a session and you get rewarded with ice cream or put a smile on people's face. How can you reject ice cream?
Yes.
If folks want to get in touch with the Yoga Nut, what's the best bet?
Email is great. My email is Yogi Lindsay, letter C. So that's YOGILINDSAY, the letter C, @gmail.com. I'm also online, Instagram, yoga_nut_wellness, Facebook, Yoga Nut Wellness. I'm on LinkedIn as Lindsay Coward, and my website, yoga_nut.com.
Okay, so if somebody wants to find you, they can. And I guess
yes.
the final thought or recommendation is, so if some companies listen to it, is that the best thing to just get in touch with you and set up a session on the phone or in person and find out what you can offer and how they can get involved?
Exactly. Yes. So we'll do like a connection call where we talk about, things that they're dealing with, what they want out of a program or a worksite wellness initiative. And then I'll propose how often I think would, work best for their company. We have a full pamphlet even where they can choose if they want a program or a la carte. And we work with them to develop a program that fits their needs, their budget, and their people.
Okay, well, anyway, sounds cool. I'd like to thank you, Lindsay Coward, for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World webcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully someday we'll even bump into each other in person. That'd be great.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Blaine.
Great. Stay with me after we sign off. Thanks.